Oh, good morning. Here it is. It's Tuesday morning. That's December the 28th. And anyway, I hope and pray you had a good Monday, and hope you're prepared for a good Tuesday. Remember me today. I'm preaching the service of a man that I have known quite a few years. And anyway, I'd appreciate your prayers for his family as we go through that service this afternoon. This morning, I want to talk about how we need to remember God's faithfulness, in our lives. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8, very familiar verse, says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Oftentimes, after, we've talked about it before, but I think it's worth noting again, after, a mountaintop, experience, there comes the valley. That's true in the terrain. It's true in our lives. Often after, a blessing comes the challenge. The temptation of Jesus, I think, in the wilderness, it took place after, he was baptized in the Jordan River by, John the Baptizer. Remember, God the Father said in Matthew 3:17, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And then the next verse tells us, then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After the blessing in this situation when Jesus was blessed by God the Father, then came the temptation. He was led out into the wilderness and he was tempted. Listen, we should not be surprised when those very same things happen in our own lives. Jesus said in the parable of the sower in Matthew 13, verses 3 and 4, "Behold, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them." Now, this reminds us, that the devil, he attacks us when we're trying to reach people. He's not going to leave us alone. He doesn't want us to do good. Listen, when you seek to share the gospel, with someone, listen, you need to expect satanic opposition in some shape or form because, listen, you're entering into a time of spiritual warfare. The devil doesn't want us to be successful in sharing the gospel with people. Listen, Mark's gospel tells us about a desperate father who had a demon-possessed son. And he said this to Jesus in Mark 9:22, "Have mercy on us and help us if you can." You remember Jesus, he had a very strong reaction to this. He said, "What do you mean if I can?" And then Jesus asked the question in verse 23, "Anything is possible if a person believes." Effectively, Jesus was saying, basically, he didn't say all this, but basically this is what he was meaning. He said often, of course I can handle this. Listen, don't forget that I walked on water. I've healed a blind man and raised someone from the dead. You need to have faith right now. When we're facing, trouble in our lives, and trouble comes in all shapes and fashions and sizes, doesn't it? I think it's a good idea for us to remember, God's faithfulness to us in the past. We may be tempted to think that, maybe God has forgotten about us and abandoned us. But listen, he doesn't ever forget about us. As the scripture said in Hebrews 13:8, Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I pray as we embark on, these next few days, we're gonna encounter a new year if the Lord, doesn't come back, before then. In fact, I believe, the first day of the new year is Saturday. Listen, we need to remember God's faithfulness. He's been faithful to us in the past. He'll be faithful to us today. And he's certainly he's prepared to be faithful to us, in the coming days, tomorrow and the next few days in this new year that will begin on Saturday. So I pray that this will encourage you to know that God is faithful and He loves us and He walks with us every step of the way. Remember, Angie and I, we love you guys and we're praying for you. And as the sign behind me says, God is in control. And Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless you.